Ozonics Killerwinds podcast. I'm Cole Tanner.
I'm Nick Simon.
Back again.
Yep.
It's been a few weeks since we've been in the office.
Yeah.
I joked before, I joked with you when we were flying into Minneapolis the other day that when we left, it was summer. And when we got back, it was fall.
Yeah.
It was all of a sudden like just a flip a switch.
Yeah.
It's not like it was hot here, and that has just been drying stuff out.
Yeah.
And everything's turning.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little early, but it still feels good.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
It's just wild. Even then you go on your phone and you're like, we've been seeing temperatures that were lows in the 60s, highs in the 90s.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like high, mid 60s, lows in the 40s.
Yeah.
And so, fall is officially here.
It feels so good. Like we just got back from lunch and it's like we walked outside and like, man, it feels good.
Roll all the windows down.
Yep. Cruise
and just hit it.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah,
I love this time of year.
Even the trees, you can just see it's like the trees go from that bright yellow, it's even crazy when you look at the trees, they go from that summer bright green to this like that duller, sad green color.
Yep.
Yeah, and it just looks like it's getting time to go.
Yeah, it's the best time of the year.
Yeah.
My favorite time for sure.
You know what's funny is I'm actually more of a spring guy.
I remember you saying that.
I love spring.
Yeah, man, I remember you saying that.
As soon as the minute the trees start to bud, that is like, I'm just like, oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I love that.
Yeah.
But I don't mind knowing that hunting season is here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I even actually like the season of it, but I just know what it brings.
Yeah, what it represents.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. But so this episode today, we're going to be talking a lot about and recapping our Idaho elk hunt.
Yep.
So we're out there with our buddy Randy Stoppenhagen that owns C3 bow mitts and C3 gun mitts. He's got a little bit of everything. And so we did a DIY elk hunt with him.
Yep.
And just hunting on national forest, on public land, and just trying to see what we could do just to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And, we actually did a podcast that aired last week that was just kind of a, halfway through the hunt, this is how it's going.
Yeah.
And, the rest of the hunt kind of turned out like the first half of the hunt.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. Even I was joking with you before we did this today, what just happened recently. I love sports. I follow, anything. It could be ping pong. I'm like into it,
Yeah.
And just the other night it was whoever was playing. I know it was the Jets.
Jets and the Bills.
Yeah, Bills and the Jets. And fourth play of the game, Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles.
Yeah.
And just like that, their season is not going to go the way they thought.
Yeah,
that game wasn't going to go the way they thought.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of ironic because we just got back from this elk hunt. It kind of feels like the elk hunt didn't go exactly how we had planned.
Yeah, it didn't turn out how we thought it would.
Yeah, we hoped for a lot more.
Yeah.
And the reality is that's just how it goes sometimes.
Yeah.
And I mean, even when you look at that Jets game, he got injured on the fourth play of the game. You could tell, you could just hear or feel the wind go out of that stadium. Everyone's just dead quiet. What are we going to do? And they kind of just maintained the first half. They rallied at halftime, and they came back and they won the game.
Yeah.
And so, I think the moral of the story of our elk hunt altogether is that we, and I think I was talking to you a lot about this as it kind of unfolded is like, we just need to try to keep hunting as hard the last day as we do the first day.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's a lot of different variables that can kind of affect that.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about it as the week went on. Even in that type of a situation, as non-residents, elk hunting there, we're starting to feel the pressure of, we got 10 days. Well, all of a sudden, you only got 6 days.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, you only got 3 days. Mm-hmm. And so, and then it starts winding down, and you're starting to think about how many hunts you have left. And that pressure can start to kind of weigh on you.
Yeah.
And I think physically and emotionally, it affects what you do.
Yeah, definitely.
I think we talk a lot about, I know what we haven't talked a lot about this, but like the mental grind of hunting. I think a lot of Western hunts are a mental grind.
Mm-hmm.
That elk hunt was a perfect example of that. We were just having to try to really do the best we could to stay on top of it and not let the pressure get to us, because all of a sudden it can make you real frustrated.
Yeah.
We weren't seeing anything.
Yeah.
And we weren't seeing any elk. We saw an elk the first day, and we saw an elk the last day.
Yeah. First morning and last evening.
And that was it.
Yeah.
But I think I kept looking at you over and over. I'm like, dude, we just got to keep doing this because you just never know when all of a sudden he's going to walk around the corner and he's going to come screaming in.
It'll just change instantly.
Yeah. And so, I don't know, it's interesting. I think that, you know, as we look back on it now, I definitely feel like we can walk away from that whole thing and look back at it and know that we left it all on the field.
Yeah.
And I feel good about it.
Yeah.
Even though it didn't work out, I don't feel like I look back, I'm like, man, I regret that we didn't do this or we didn't try that or whatever. I feel like we hunted hard.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you can compare it to any season, really. I mean, I know I've had years where hunting was slow all deer season, and it's like by the time you get to the end of it, you're kind of like, man, I'm just kind of over it almost. You know, your mindset kind of goes down the drain a little bit. You know, at the beginning of the year, you're hunting every chance you get. Now maybe you're finding excuses to not go.
Yeah.
So it's very comparable to any season, I think. And it's, it's pretty interesting how it really does affect you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, like I said, even when I used to guide, we would have guys that would come on 5-day, 7-day elk hunts, you know, and 5 or 7 days, just like we're getting ready to go to Montana. 5 days is not a lot of time.
Yeah.
5 days. I mean, 2 days in, you're almost halfway.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it can, all of a sudden you're like, dang, we don't have much time left.
Right.
And, you know, I feel like sometimes pressure, it makes everything bigger than it really needs to be.
Oh, 100%.
The fact of the matter is that you just need to try to hunt every day and be in that moment.
Yeah.
But when you all of a sudden start letting pressure come into it, all of a sudden it becomes bigger than just that day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It messes with you mentally. Not only that, but then all of a sudden, and I've experienced this when I would see clients that could really drill them in there or, you know, ding plates out to 400, 500, 600 yards. All of a sudden when they got in that moment, the pressure of the week and this, whatever was going on in their head, all of a sudden it manifests itself in the shot that they're trying to execute.
Yeah.
And it makes things harder.
Yeah.
And so for me, I feel like we were just trying to really just stay in the moment and just, I think, recognize that pressure and be like, dude, we need to not put pressure on ourselves. Let's just hunt right now.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like back to what you're saying about, like, you know, those guys who can, you know, maybe go out and shoot a group really well at 40, 50 yards or whatever. You know, they're good shots and stuff, but like as that pressure starts to build, there's just so much extra in your head. And it's like you're not thinking of just the shot. You're maybe thinking, oh man, I better make sure this is good because this might be my last opportunity, might be my only opportunity. Whereas if it was the first day and you had that same mindset, you're like, oh, here we go. There's just nothing else in there. So as that pressure builds, it all just kind of starts to snowball a little bit in your brain.
And I'll tell you what, when we were out on the last day of the hunt, the last afternoon, we were just walking down. We were basically, there's a big road system that came like this and it looped a big loop around and kind of came back on itself. And it was going to go up over this knob and then way back down to the road again. So we were just going to walk this logging trail basically and then just see what we would come across. So we didn't get very far down that log road and then boom, there is the, you know, the rub of all rubs. It was just like this tree just ripped up. There's stuff thrown everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's an elk in here.
Yeah.
But a couple minutes after that, all of a sudden this guy pipes off.
Yep.
It's like, okay, here we go. So we ended up kind of just deciding, okay, let's try to make a move that way.
Yeah. Veer off the original path.
Yep. It's like we know where we're at. You know, we'll keep track of it on our maps, but we're going to go off to the right and see where this goes. We got up there not but 100 yards farther, just trying to really still hunt our way through, try not to make a lot of noise, look ahead the best you can. And about that time, we kind of came over kind of a bigger down piece of brush, kind of came over this dead tree, looked up, and then boom, there he was.
Yeah.
It was a great bull.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew he was a branch antlered bull. He went up, you could see his white, his just great white horns. I was like, oh my goodness, there he is. And you could tell he stood up out of his bed and he kind of looked down. He heard something.
Yeah.
Couldn't figure it out. And he just kind of nonchalantly just kind of walked up to the top of this ridge. He was in this little dark spot.
Yeah.
And then just went up and over.
Yeah.
And tried to cow call at him,
Yeah.
Just seeing if we could just maybe get him to, oh, maybe that's a cow. And come back down here and check it out.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
But even in that moment, as after that, we kind of spot and stalked up to where he was, came up this little ridge, just easing over the ridge, getting ready. I didn't feel that like, oh my gosh, this is the last day. We need to make this work. I really just tried to be like, okay, we're here right now. Let's make the most of this opportunity. And I feel like that's the mindset that works a lot better than trying to think, oh my gosh, it's the last day. This is my last chance. If I don't get this to work, it's not going to happen. Oh.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you whiff one.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
One, make a dumb decision,
Yeah.
Maybe you make a move that you shouldn't have,
Yep.
or you push too hard or something.
Yeah.
Anything really.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. I didn't really feel that either.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt pretty collected, I thought. But
Yeah. Well, I think what you just mentioned there is really good too, in the fact of, and I talk a lot about this on just different hunts that I've done over the years. Even when I've guided, I talk about what we're going to do is we're just going to keep trying to make good decisions.
Mm-hmm.
If we keep making good decisions day after day,
Yeah.
day after day, day after day, like that is going to accumulate to something good happening.
Right.
And sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I've made the right decision and made the right moves, and then it just doesn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
They go the other way. The two things you can't control are the weather and the animals.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but in the same regard, I think that day after day, we kept just trying to go, okay, let's make the right decisions today. Let's make good decisions today. Let's do this the right way.
Yeah.
And let's just keep trying to stack those things in our favor.
Yeah.
And hopefully the other flip of the coin will be right.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny too. It's just so funny how the pressure can affect that, because, on your 5th or 6th day or something, when you haven't seen anything, you're probably not going to be too keen to get back to camp and like really think about everything and, really make a conscious decision of like what you're going to go do.
Yeah.
But whereas it's the first day, you're all gung ho and you're like, man, let's do this, let's do that. But then by the end of it, you're just starting to get wore down, and it's a hard thing to do for sure. And
it can wear you down. I mean, it does wear you down. Like I said, it can just be tough.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like, it could have been tougher. We could have been getting skunked and not seen that first one, not heard him bugling.
Yeah.
The first time I went with Randy 4 years ago, I heard one bugle the whole time. It was in the middle of the night. Went outside the camper to go to the bathroom, and then there he cocked off.
Yeah.
And didn't see and saw an elk the first day.
Yeah.
And so, it could get tougher.
Yeah.
But I think that's the interesting thing too. We've talked about is, some of the kind of the hunting tactics that we tried to think about while we were out there. When the hunt started, from my experience, I was like, man, it's early.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're going to get bulls coming in, if we're setting up in a calling sequence, they're probably going to come in pretty quiet. They're going to kind of sneak in, especially if it's like a spike or a satellite bull, you call it, or raghorn. They're probably just going to sneak in like real, real quiet, seeing if they could steal a cow, or we just see what's going on. But when we would call, we weren't having much luck getting it, even seeing anything or hearing anything.
Yeah.
It just wasn't working.
Yeah.
And so Randy's idea was, let's sit in these tree stands in the morning on this ridge that they basically want to work up and over, or work up and then work through.
Yeah.
And then let's kind of do this run and gun in the afternoon. And so we weren't seeing really anything and I can't say we weren't seeing anything, because we saw one on the first day, then Randy had a whole pile of them in front of him on the second day.
Yep.
A big herd bull that he was looking to get and just didn't give him the right shot, passed on some cows and things. And then it was pretty bone dry after that.
Yeah.
But I think one of the tactics for me, I was like, okay, well, being early, like, let's look for water.
Yeah.
Let's, I talk about a lot. We talked about this on the hunt, that in the Midwest, I was always, and I really realized till I got out west that like a lot of times I just look in the Midwest, I just look straight ahead.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the trees, I'm looking around, but in the West, man, you spend a lot of time looking down.
Right.
You're looking for tracks. You're looking for scat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're looking for rubs. You're looking for wallows. You're looking for scrapes. You're looking for stuff that will help kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah, exactly.
And so initially I'm like, hey, let's look for water. Well, here come find out, there was, in all these little drainages of these hillsides, there's water.
Yeah.
There's plenty of water. There was no particular like, oh, they're going to go to this.
Yeah.
We checked a few wallows, nothing was getting hit.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, let's mark that off the list. So then it was like, well, let's really key on where are we seeing elk sign?
Yeah.
Well, that was a heck of a thing of that. There was only really 3 spots where we saw elk sign.
Yeah.
We saw older elk sign on the ridge that we were on.
Yeah.
And then there was another spot that, Randy had a nickname for. He called it the bedroom, that we saw a lot of older elk sign in there.
Yep.
And then after that, the most elk sign and the freshest elk sign we saw was that last evening.
Yeah.
Where we walked up on top of that knob, where we bumped that bull and tried to make a move and get up on top. there was elk scat that was sticking to your boot. I mean, it was hot.
Yeah.
You know, you could tell
Yeah.
the elk had just been in there. There was rubs everywhere. We found this huge dry wallow.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the tactic as the week went on, when the calling really wasn't working, and looking for wallows and trying to hone in on something like that wasn't working. I really went to just back to the, I guess, I don't know what you would call it, traditional way of like, where are we seeing elk sign?
Yeah.
And let's key on that. And even that was kind of hard to come by. We went days that I don't remember seeing an elk track.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we saw a lot of moo cow tracks,
Yeah, exactly.
but not a lot of elk tracks. And then all of a sudden, when it was even that last evening, we got into that elk sign, and it was like everything you saw was elk.
Yeah.
And when we walked down that road and then we doubled back and we came past those couple good trails that went up right after that, it was like the elk sign just turned off.
Yeah.
And it was
Instantly
gone.
gone,
Oh,
yep.
it's gone. And I told that, I said to you, I'm like, hey man, look at that. Like all of a sudden we're in it and we're out of it.
Yeah.
And so I think the thing about it too is when you start to find elk sign, you have to kind of take it, you have to value it, but you almost have to devalue it too. In the fact of you value it because you go, okay, this is where the elk want to be, or this is where they've been.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that that's where they're always going to be.
Right.
Where you just go, okay, I'm going to just key in on this and hunt this for the next 10 days.
Yeah.
But I would say you definitely hold that in higher value
Yeah.
than spots that you're going into and you're seeing nothing but moo cow sign. You're just seeing no elk sign, no elk tracks, no elk scat. Okay, well, it's not like whitetails where you walk into any track of hardwoods and you go, I don't really need to look for sign because I know there's deer here.
Yeah.
Because that's what deer do, right?
Exactly.
Like there's corn, there's water, there's feed, there's water, here's hardwoods. They're going to be here.
Yeah.
Elk are not like that. You know what I mean? Like, you know, we were just really trying to find that sign.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we finally found it on the last day.
Yeah, exactly.
The last evening.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Yeah. I think tactic wise, one thing that stuck out to me and it really showed that last hunt is like, you know, I don't think it's very smart to just go busting into a little piece. Like we worked really slow, methodical, and you were cow calling here and there. And I mean, that's got to be the reason why that bull didn't just get up and run away.
Yeah.
I mean, because he heard something walking for sure, heard you cow calling. He probably thought it was another cow. But that was just something that was kind of going through my mind a little bit. It's like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's probably sounds stupid that I'm even saying that because it's probably pretty.
No.
But you know what I mean? Because we walked right up onto him.
Oh,
you know?
I mean, dude, we were within 80 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, I ranged the hill that he was sitting on at the bottom of it. And it was like 40 and he was just up at the top of that.
Yeah.
And so he was right there.
Yeah.
I mean, he was right there.
Yeah. So I just think there's a lot of advantage to just cow calling, just trying to sound like an elk.
Yeah.
You know, because I think if we would have went in there not calling and it was just us just walking through there, I think it probably could have been a different situation where you might have just got up and ran rather than stuck around for a little bit to really try and see what it was just because you were cow calling.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think you can maybe speak onto this because I feel like this is just kind of how I do things, but I've noticed in the last, and I don't know what really changed. I think it was probably when I was guiding in Colorado. I always joked with clients, I had two rules. Don't guide the guide / you came out a guided hunt, don't tell me what to do. And don't walk like an elephant.
Yeah.
Because man, I'd have a lot of guys that would just like, I felt like they were trying to break every stick possible. It's like, bro, like just step where I step, you know? But I feel like I started to try to walk and move through the woods a lot more deliberately.
Yeah.
And I feel like I really do that now.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one thing I would say with elk hunting is still hunting through the woods is a really tricky thing. Because mule deer, elk, they are trying to survive.
Yeah.
They are going to look and sit in such a way that they can hear or see or smell what they need to survive, to instinctively not get killed by a predator.
Yeah.
Us being one of those predators.
Yeah.
So still hunting up on an elk can be really tricky because they most likely are going to see you before you see them.
Yeah.
But the advantage too about some of the out west compared to the Midwest is, man, when the leaves start to fall here, man, it sounds like Rice Krispies out there.
Yeah.
It is tough to move quiet.
Yeah.
And so still try to do it. But there, I mean, it just had rained a little bit and we could pick our way through that.
Yeah.
Walk for 10, 20 yards, stop, look all around, get a real good look, move a little farther, stop. And so I think there is just such an inherent advantage to if you can try to still hunt through the woods and just do what you can. I mean, look at me and Jet.
Yeah.
I've been doing this depredation hunting. There's been 2 times that we've hunted this bean field. And even the day that you and I went, I mean, I walk slow through beans that I think most guys just kind of trudge out through them.
Yeah.
And I don't think that sounds natural. I don't really ever see deer just like trudge through a field.
Yeah.
They walk, they stop, they look around, they smell, they maybe grab a little bite.
Yeah.
They walk a little farther.
Yeah.
Their cadence isn't just a beating drum.
No.
Right? It's just, it's kind of all over the map.
Well, and just inherently the way they move, it's quieter.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing that I always think about, it's like, that's their home.
Mm-hmm.
Think about me and you, like when we're at our house, if there's one thing that sounds a little different, looks a little different, you're like, well, what the heck is that? It's the same thing with animals too. We're intruding on their home.
Yeah.
So like any little thing that sounds off, they're going to know like that,
Yep.
So as best as you can to, walk through there real nice and slow. I mean, it helps a lot, but
yeah. One of the things that I always like to do, after hunts, and I mean, I think we were doing it when we were kind of walking out or driving down the mountain, what's your favorite part?
Yeah.
When you look back at it, what was your favorite part? And there was actually something that I heard before the trip that I mentioned to you that, one of the things that I really enjoy about hunting trips, especially, and I feel like and I really feel this when I'm hunting, and I sometimes feel it when I'm hunting around here, if I get to do an all day sit and I'm not just out there for a couple hours in the morning or afternoon.
Yeah.
But one thing that I really enjoy about hunting trips is being present.
Yeah.
I'm not as worried about all the things that I usually think about day to day.
Yeah.
Oh man, what do I got to do tonight? What I got going on tomorrow? Or I'm worrying about what's happening that day. I feel like when I'm on a hunting trip, some of that worry goes away.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I've got a loving, amazing wife that is taking care of a lot of stuff for me at home, so I can do that stuff. But yeah, I feel like when I'm on those hunting trips, I can be a lot more present.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of my favorite parts is just being in the moment. And when you're in the moment, you start to really realize what's important to you. I feel like I just see things and think a lot more clear. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
And I feel like that's probably my favorite part about those trips is just being present.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I struggled with that this last week, just with some stuff that was going on, but I tried to for sure. And like there was just a handful of moments that was like it really hit me like, holy crap, like you got to be pretty thankful for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I think there was one time I told you, I'm like, man, there's not a lot of people that can do what we're doing right now,
right?
Or have the opportunity to. So you just get into it's just like a different world out there. It's just so cool. I mean, seeing the vistas and all that, I mean, it's just so different than here, and it's crazy to see. It just makes you feel really, really small. Yeah. And it's a pretty insane feeling. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and there was a couple times where we'd get up after sitting in those tree stands in the morning and we'd walk off this ridge top. We'd start to go down and you'd be looking through these big trees and you'd be seeing another ridge line behind that going like this, and you'd see another ridge behind like that going like this, and it's just like, dang.
Yeah.
Like this is wild.
Yeah.
It doesn't look anything like Iowa. I mean, you couldn't get more of a stark difference than Iowa.
Yeah.
So I think I enjoy that. I enjoyed that part too, just really being like, dang, this is big country.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the one place where we really found that and saw that was that spot where we took a couple pictures and stuff. And I remember that night telling you, I'm like, I just hope you know that like these pictures that you just took today of me, like hopefully my kids and my grandkids will be looking at this because this is just insane. Like that
is funny.
It's just cool. I mean, those things will be with you forever, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah. No, and like I said, I think my other overarchingly favorite part is just getting to spend time, with Randy.
Yep.
Again, he lives in Idaho. We live in Iowa, pretty far apart.
Yeah.
And so we run into each other a lot of times in the wintertime at the consumer shows, but then the rest of the time, our lives kind of go completely different directions.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of neat that able to spend some time with him and get to hunt with him. And, some of that was kind of bittersweet up there too, because you kind of felt like, well, and the reality is of that piece of, land, there's been a couple huge, or not a couple, there was one incredible fire that burned up, I don't know, 60, 70% of that.
A lot of it. Granted, I wasn't there before, but it was.
The last time I was there, it was nothing but dark timber. Like what some of the stuff that we experienced, that's all it was.
Yeah.
And now a lot of that's all gone.
Yeah.
There's a drainage right behind that he would use to hunt that is completely gone. I mean, there's nothing. It was just scorched earth.
Yeah.
That fire burned so hot that there wasn't even like any tree trunks left. I mean, it literally burned them down to the stump. They just nothing.
Yeah.
He said it burned so hard that there were spots that it's still just ash, that no grass has grown back yet, which is incredible to think, because it's been like 2 or 3 years since then. And so it was a little bit bittersweet in the fact of like a lot of the spots that, and I think it was fun to hear Randy talk about like, oh yeah, we used to hunt, we call this two bear, and we used to call this the killing meadows. And, you know, this was sugar britches, and this was this, and this was that. And this was the knob, and blah, 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 blah. And he would tell all these stories about all these experiences, and he'd be like, and you could hear it in his voice, like, oh, well, that burned. Yeah. You're like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, we can't hunt that anymore. I'm like, dang. Yeah. And I'm like, what about the spot we went to last time where that bear stalked in and like charged you? And he's like, yeah, that's gone. Yeah. I'm like, dang. And so there seems like there's still as many hunters up there, but there's less ground to hunt.
Way less, yeah.
There's still the same amount of ground, but less valued ground that an elk is going to probably spend time in. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it was kind of an interesting thing to kind of work through that piece as well. Yeah. And, you know, yeah, it just made it tricky. Yeah, without a doubt. And so, like I said, it was awesome getting to spend time with Randy. It was fun to hear him tell the stories, but it was a little times it was kind of sad. Yeah, definitely. I was like, dang, that sucks that that's gone. Yeah. And I think the other thing too is he's made it sound like, and you could see the markings on the trees where they've got logging scheduled for years moving forward. Yeah. Where some of the spots we hunted this year might not be there.
Yeah, it's just gonna keep kind of getting worse.
Right.
And I mean, it's they do it for a good cause reason. You know, it's good for the forest, but from a hunting standpoint and stuff like that, it kind of deters you for a little bit.
Well,
you know?
yeah. I mean, everybody has their reason for doing something. We're obviously there to try to hunt elk, and we want as much force as we can handle. But obviously, logging, you know, from what he explained to us, a lot of that logging in that area goes for like education funding in the state of Idaho, and it used to be national forest, but now it's owned by the state, and so they've changed some of the rules and whatever. I don't know a lot of the legality. Yeah, but and like you said, logging can be a great thing for a forest ecosystem. You know what I mean? And so when they're doing selective logging, and that's the thing too. A lot of it that was just kind of clear cut was because a lot of it burned, and there was nothing but just trunks left. You know, there's nothing. You know?
Exactly.
But yeah, so it was interesting. Like I said, getting to spend time with Randy was awesome. You know, and getting to joke around and have fun in the camper. You know, that one night we had a awesome time watching the
Lions game,
the Lions Chiefs game. Yeah. You know, I don't think there was very many people that had the Lions winning. Yeah. Some people did. Yeah. Randy did. Yeah. And man, he lost it. Yeah. When it got to the end of that game. Yep. And it's kind of cool being in the middle of nowhere, and here we had cable TV. Yeah. That was pretty bizarre. So that was pretty fun. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he was losing it. Oh, yeah. I thought for sure that's all he was going to talk about the rest of the trip, but he did pretty good. Yeah. He laid it on pretty thick the next day, rightfully so.
Well, it's kind of funny. I mean, we had a Vikings fan, a Packers fan, and a Lions fan in camp. So
the NFC North was represented.
Totally covered, except for the Bears.
Yeah. Nobody likes the Bears. Yeah. The other thing that we wanted to talk about too is I think even as the hunt started and before the hunt, a lot of times when I used to guide, I would ask clients, I'm like, all right, man, how would you measure success on this trip? Like, what does that look like for you? What does that look like for you? Because if my measure of success is getting you an opportunity, and I'm looking to get you an opportunity on any elk, but you're wanting a 340 6x6, well, then our measure of successes are different. Yeah. So let's make sure we're on the same page before we start. Yeah. And I think as we went into the hunt, the elk tag that I had was for any elk. Yeah. So I could shoot a cow, a calf, and a spike, a raghorn, herd bull. There was nothing off limits. If it was brown, it's down. But I felt like for me, my measure of success honestly wasn't even as much hunting. I was just looking to get to spend time with Randy and be in the mountains. And I think obviously having you there from an Ozonics perspective, most importantly, we're really trying to create a bunch of great content that we could share on these types of things. Yeah. That could have an opportunity to share that with people that follow what we're doing, on social media, on YouTube, on the podcast. And so I think for me, my measure of success was I didn't really feel like I wanted to shoot a cow.
Yeah.
For me, it was like, well, if I'm going to shoot a cow, I'm going to shoot a cow just for the meat.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, elk meat is good. And we had some elk burgers that were like, holy guacamole, they were good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
They're really good.
But for me, it's like, wow, if I'm just going to shoot a cow for meat, I can get as much deer meat as I can handle. I just put 85 pounds of deer hamburger in my freezer yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's like when you look at how much it would cost per pound,
Yeah.
I can do that for $2 a pound here by the time I mix beef into it.
Yeah.
And hardly any gas when I drive 20 minutes to where I deer hunt and back.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can shoot a cow here, pay to get it processed. Then I got to fly it home.
Yeah.
Bop. I feel like the cost just really added up. I'm like, I can get deer meat here.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, oh, it'd be so awesome to have like a cow rug and a hide. Yeah, that would be cool. But I just couldn't justify it or make it add up for me.
Right.
And a calf felt like that was kind of a no.
Yeah.
But after that, if it was a spike or a raghorn or a herd bull, it's funny. I don't even feel like the antlers really as much represent a ton for me.
Yeah.
I really enjoy knowing what it represents for my little boy Jet.
Yeah.
Just like the reaction to see him get him. And Tatum she didn't want to tell me this during the trip, but she told me last night that Jet was asking for play-by-plays by the day, and he was having meltdowns because he wanted a bull elk.
Yeah.
I want a dad to get a bull elk. I want, the one day he called me, he's like, well, Dad, it's okay if you don't get a bull, but you better shoot a female then. Cause he didn't know I'm like, well, they call them cows here, buddy. And then the other day he called them does, So, but yeah, he was pretty adamant about that. But I think the big thing that we're trying to get at with that is the size of the animal wasn't going to be the measure of success for our trip.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, we kind of get into this whole thing about apologizing, right?
Yeah.
I would say, whatever your measure of success is at the beginning, stick with that.
Yeah.
But you also have to be okay if you don't get over that bar that you've set.
Right.
And I was okay with that.
Yeah.
I wasn't just going to shoot something to shoot something.
Right.
Like I knew that this is kind of what I wanted to try to do, and that's what it was going to be.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely 100%.
So it's not that size can't be your measure of success.
Mm-hmm.
Size of the antlers can't be the measure of success. That's fine. But just be okay with if that doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
Or if the measure of success changes.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
I mean, heck, we're going to be we leave for Montana tomorrow morning. We're on a plane at 5:40 in the morning.
Yeah.
As soon as we get in the car with Scott and Buddy, the first thing I'm going to ask them is, all right, guys, because we're going there to film them, what's the measure of success? What do you guys want to do? Because I am going to be the guy that the minute an elk walks in front of the camera, I'm going to be like, shoot it.
Yeah.
Shoot it, shoot it, shoot it, shoot it, shoot it.
Yeah.
Shoot it, shoot it, shoot it. Hey, shoot it. Want to shoot it.
Yeah.
But if Buddy wants to shoot something, he wants to shoot an absolute toad, then I need to understand that because that might be his measure of success.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
I think even for you guys on that nilgai hunt, the measure of success changed.
Yeah.
I think they both wanted to go there and they wanted to shoot great big nilgai.
Yeah.
And then towards the end, it was, hey, I really want to shoot on nilgai.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think the more open-minded you are to that, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
I think as we look back on this Idaho elk hunt, the other thing that I'd like to mention is, man, if you're listening to this and you've ever wanted to try to get into you're trying to think, man, I'd love to do something besides whitetail hunting. Mm-hmm. Man, what other type of big game could I get myself out there and do? There is a lot of opportunity in Western states to go and try to chase elk.
Yeah.
Is elk hunting hard? Yes, it is. It's super hard.
Yeah.
But in the same regard, it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
Especially if you put yourself in the mountains, let's say the second half of September, when they really start to bugle and they start to give you a little bit of an idea of where they are.
Yeah.
As a young man, that's what I did. My brother-in-law, who was just my best friend at the time, we didn't know anything.
No.
We didn't know a thing. But we bought some backpacks, we got some sleeping bags, got some tents, and we just got up in the mountains and we just started running around.
Right.
You know, I mean, when even where we were at on this public land, what we were doing was what a lot of the guys were doing. Heck, we saw a guy that was camping it was called like truck camping. He had his truck there and he had like one of those like tailgating type picnic canopies that he just put over the bed of his truck and threw down a sleeping bag and had some gallons of water for, to drink, and probably could have just gone and filtered out of the creek if he needed to.
Yeah.
And that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
And he was elk hunting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of opportunity with some great, guides and outfitters. I've got a bunch of good friends out that are guiding out west. But the nice thing too is you can go and find national forest, state ground, and you can go elk hunting.
Right.
It's not rocket science.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially if you put yourself out there in the second half of September, you never know what may happen.
Yeah.
And you'll start to figure out how you got to play the wind and understanding the thermals.
Yeah.
And then start making moves.
Exactly.
And then you just never know.
Yeah. Right.
What you might come across.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, I would say if you ever really want to do something like that, don't be afraid to get out there and do it.
Yeah.
So I felt like going into that, I always joke when I say this when we do things around here, when we go on hunts, you hope for the best and you plan for the worst.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that I was hoping for the best, but in the same regard, I was planning for the worst.
Yeah.
And when the worst kind of started to happen, I didn't lose it because I just kind of thought that was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what was that? The one day, that was like the third or fourth day, we got on that one ridge and we went down, and then Randy Cal called that one time, and that bull just like, hey, here I am. Yeah. I mean, it was like, he was like, Mira, bam, he hit.
Yeah.
And Randy just turned inside out. He's like, here's what we got to do. You go over there. I'm going to get back here. And I'm like, and I was freaking out too. I think we just like ran around in a circle for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And we set up, and you got in the tree right behind me, and I'm like, okay, over my shoulder, here we go. And I'm knocking air, and I'm listening to every single thing, and I'm looking back and forth, and it was on.
Yeah.
And then he bugled again off. So Randy's like, okay, let's go. Let's rally this way. So we went down this little trail. We're spotting and stalking, trying to ease up through there, and her pump started beeping
like crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And it has its normal like beep, 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 and then it has like a beep, 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 which is like
way louder than
warning, stop,
Yeah.
And right away, like I remember I remember undoing my release, unnocking my arrow, putting my arrow on my quiver, and looking at you and go, let's sit down.
Yeah.
And it was just the way it was.
Yeah.
It's crazy because of all the time I've spent with you since February till now September, I've seen you go low once.
Yeah.
One time it was in July. We were setting that tree stand. It was like 1,000 degrees out. Remember that?
Yeah.
And we walked in there and we were kind of trying to stomp our way in. And then I started, and you were kind of getting the tree stand stuff ready, and you were kind of handing stuff up to me, and I was sitting ladder. And then I just looked down at you, and you could just see it in your face. And you're like, I don't feel good. And I was like, oh, really? And you're like, yeah, I'm low. And I was like, oh, crap. So I like climbed down. I'm like, I ran, grab you some water, and you just like sat there.
Yeah.
Like you were in another dimension.
Yeah.
And it was like, dang, dude. And he's like, and you're just like, yeah, this is how I get.
Yeah.
And you just sat there the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, you were good.
Yeah.
But you were just sitting there.
Yeah.
And that was happening every day.
Yeah. Every single day it happened.
It wasn't happening when we were sitting in the tree stands, because we were walking up this ridge and we were getting in a stand from like, we were getting up at like 4:30, and then that was all happening until like noon or 1.
Mm-hmm.
That was good.
Yeah.
But man, when we got back to camp, and then we would kind of eat lunch and make a plan, and then the afternoons we weren't even, well, I wouldn't call it running and gunning. It was more like still hunting and cow calling.
Setting up.
Setting up, waiting. Every time we did that, you just plummeted.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah. It wasn't good.
Was it a combination of the elevation? Was it a combination of lack of sleep?
Yeah.
Was it a combination of not drinking enough water?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Randy, we all, we were really packing on the Hostess cupcakes.
Yeah.
There was, he had a lot of junk food, which was great that he had that for us.
Yeah.
But were you eating 100% the right way?
Right.
So whatever reason, it definitely affected how we did things.
Yeah.
And I was okay with that. I was hoping for the best, planning for the worst. I was just expecting it to go, okay, we have to stop.
Yeah.
And we did.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that, because we did that whole podcast on don't let diabetes control your life. And, you know, we talked a lot about not letting diabetes control your life. But I feel like the thing for me that kind of evolved into as the trip went on, and I think something that you're still probably wrestling with now is don't let diabetes control your life. That sounds great. That's a great anthem. But really what it is for me, I feel like as I've gotten to know you, and even just this right now is it's not only about like, don't let diabetes control your life, but accept that you have diabetes.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. It's like you were in an accident, you lost your leg. You're not going to be in the same class of running the rest of your life. You're not going to be in the elite division running a 2.5 hour marathon. You're going to be in the handicap division. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
Accepting that you have diabetes and just going, you know what, I have this. Because I remember we were sitting in the stand there one day and you're like, well, I don't want this to control me. Like, I don't want to have this ceiling.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but maybe you don't look at it that way. Maybe you look at it like instead of the glass is half empty, your glass is already half empty.
Yeah.
You have to sit there and go, my glass is half full because you already lost half of it because of diabetes.
Right.
And being like, well, I feel like I'm finding my ceiling. It's like, or feel like you just pushed your ceiling a little bit higher. Yeah, you might have found it, but you're sitting up here looking down going, dang.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
So I feel like that's what I feel like I hope because I think the diabetes part was a huge aspect of the hunt.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that people hear that don't let diabetes control your life, but man, accept that you have it and this is who you are, and just know that this is who I am now and I have to move forward and try to make the best of it. Because there are people that do unbelievable things with diabetes.
Oh, yeah.
I guarantee you we can find somebody that climbed Mount Everest with diabetes. We could probably find that. We could put it right here. It's probably some man or woman that's an absolute ninja, right? They're type 1 diabetic and but they go, you know what, I've got this, but I'm going to move forward and know this is who I am, but I just have to plan accordingly.
Yeah, exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was it was really hard because it's like, this was like the first time that I thought that I was going to be perfectly fine. I mean, I knew I'd get some lows and stuff like that, but I just didn't expect it to affect it that much. And I think that was the first time that I really had that realization, like, okay, yeah, you are limited. And it was really, really hard for me. It wrecked my mindset the entire time, honestly. Yeah. And like, I tried to not show it and stuff, but man, it was horrible. Just because like it was that first time really realizing it. And yeah, it was really hard. I mean, I'm thankful I was able to do it and stuff, but yeah, it didn't really go how I thought. So
yeah,
but still did it.
Yeah.
And we're still here to talk about it. So,
well, and I think that's for me the reason that I feel like I have a real positive outlook on it because I don't know. I just think that, it didn't go 100% as planned.
Yeah.
It definitely limited some of the stuff that we were going to do.
Yeah.
But dude, like for me, when I look at you and ours friendship and you and I as guys that are hunting together and buddies, I look at this and go, yeah, that sucked in some ways, but moving forward for the next year, 5 years, 10 years, for the rest of your life, I think that this elk hunt will be kind of a turning point that you'll go, you know what, that was pretty wild, but I'll tell you what, I do remember that was when I finally really said, okay, this is who I am now. Yeah. I'm not the guy I was before. Man, I sure wish I was, but I'm not, and I can't keep dwelling on that. Yeah. This is who I am, and I'm moving forward with that. Yeah. And I feel like when you kind of almost put that, when you stop feeding that monster of trying to hold on to that memory and just go, this is who I am, you stop feeding that monster, and before you know it, you're going to walk away from that. You're going to beat it, and you're going to be a better of who you are now.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, I've got people in my life that deal with alcoholism, right? Like there's a lot of people that deal with alcoholism. I actually follow a lot of people on TikTok, like Steve-O, and I don't know that guy, but like I know he's a recovering alcoholic. Yeah. He deals with stuff, and there's a lot of different people that talk a lot about that stuff. For me, it's very motivating. Yeah. And they talk a lot about like first it's just really accepting that, you know what? I have a problem with alcohol. Yeah. I don't have a problem with alcohol, but people do. Yeah. And accepting that is a huge thing. Right. Because a lot of people go, well, I don't have a problem. Yeah. I don't want to have a problem. I feel guilty that I maybe do have a problem, but I don't want to admit that. Yeah. And then when they finally admit it, it's like a huge turning point. And I feel like I see your emotion right now. That's what I feel like happened on that trip. And to me, that is the 6x6 bull that we were looking for.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why it almost makes me excited because I'm like, heck yeah, dude. Like, because you're going to be better moving forward.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think I needed it for sure. Just an experience like that. Cause it's like, it'd be one thing if I was diabetic my entire life, but like, I know what it's like without it and I know what I was capable of, and everything that I've done till now, I was capable of still doing it and making it work. And so yeah, I think it was really important to have that realization, I think.
Well, and I'll tell you what, I think what we're about to do next is a perfect example of, I feel like you need to live your life in a way that you're capable of doing what you're capable of doing.
Yeah.
We're going to Montana tomorrow, elk hunting. You just got through a very, very, kind of feels like a life-changing, life realization type thing.
Yeah.
And you're not like going, oh man, I'm gonna just sit here and I'm gonna really, chew on this and marinate on this. And you're turning around and be like, let's get back on the horse, But the nice thing is we're going to go to Montana, and I feel like you're going to Montana with the mindset of, this is what I can do.
Yeah.
Not feeling guilty about what you can't.
Yeah.
Just going, this is what I can do.
Right.
And this is how I'm going to hunt, and this is what I'm going to try to do for Ozonics and how we're going to try to film it.
Yeah.
And just be okay with that.
Right. Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yep. It'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I really appreciate you letting me go into that, because I know that's too, that's an incredibly personal thing. And this is a very open public forum, So
whatever.
Yeah,
Don't bother me.
if anybody trolls us on this, I will track you down and probably get my butt kicked.
Yeah.
But
I apologize for getting all this.
No, that. Yeah. But no, I think it's great, dude. I appreciate you letting us talk about it, because I think it definitely is a part of what we did. And I think that as we've talked about this, I hope that somebody listening to this can take a little tidbit from that and go, you know what, man, I'm right there too,
Yeah. Well, it was a huge part of the trip, honestly.
Yeah.
Like you said, we changed it. Not a whole lot, but just the way we went about things. We were just, maybe focus a little bit more on some of this stuff. So yeah, it was a big part of what we did. So,
yeah. Well, dude, and we sat there on that last day. We walked down that 2-track and we got down to that road, and then Randy came and picked us up. We were just kind of standing there, and it was just getting dark. You could kind of look up and see the silhouette of the trees.
Yeah.
And the early evening sky. It's kind of like that weird dark blue, purple color, almost getting to black. And I just stood there, and I'm kind of sitting there looking up at the sky, and you're standing there, and I'm like, man, you did it, dude. And I remember you being like, yeah, I just kind of feel like I thought this was going to be one of those things where maybe I really get into elk hunting, but I don't know if I'm going to ever be able to do a thing like this again.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, I don't think it's like that.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's just what you can and can't do. So you just have to focus on what you can.
Right.
Doesn't mean you can't ever go elk hunting again.
Yeah.
We were at 6,500 feet on a DIY elk hunt.
Yeah.
Didn't exactly go the easy way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you just have to play to your strengths.
Right. Exactly.
Heck, I wouldn't put it out of the question for you to go elk hunting.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not doing exactly what we did.
Yeah.
But there's ways that I think you could do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And heck, dude, I remember I guided a guy that had a pacemaker one time.
Yeah.
He's about it. He's like, here's the deal. I can only walk so fast. My heart only beats so fast. And I was like, okay. And he's like, he goes, it only beats so fast, man. So I'm not running. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay. Yep. And he's like, we'll just do what we can. And I'm like, sounds great.
Yeah.
And he had an opportunity, you know?
Exactly.
So I think that there's ways that you could still do it, but I think it's just focusing on what you can do rather than living in of what you used to be able to and feeling bad about it. They can't do it now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
I'll
tell you what, I think that's something, again, I don't know why I don't know Aaron Rodgers, I like sports. I don't know why I keep thinking about Aaron Rodgers and that Achilles. I just feel bad about that.
Yeah.
And you think about a lot of professional athletes, man, you think about how hard that is when they get to the point, they've been a professional athlete for 10, 15 years at the peak of their athletic physical performance.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're not who they were.
Right. Yep.
They look back at themselves when they were in college, their rookie, second, third, fourth year, and the numbers that they put up, and they're just not doing it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they just have to go, man, I'm not that person I was.
Yeah, exactly.
This is who I am now.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Rodgers isn't the guy he was when he was 19, 20, 21, 22 years old. He's got to play to his strengths. Look at Tom Brady. He played till he was 46 years old or 45, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Played for 20 some years. He wasn't the same guy who was 15 years ago.
Right.
He just had to be the guy who was now, and he had to not worry about all this and that. He's like, dude, I'm going to be incredibly laser accurate. I'm going to make quick decisions. I'm going to get it out. And this is the type of offense we have to run. This is what's conducive to who I am now.
Yeah.
And Tampa Bay Buccaneers are willing to do that. They won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Unreal.
If you put Tom Brady on half those other teams, I don't know what would have happened.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't have gone very well.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? Sorry, that's a really far-fetched real connection there, but I am all about sports and the NFL tomorrow night, Vikings, Eagles. We're finding a way to watch that. It's going to be on national TV in Montana. So I better have a TV. So I'm going to take about 2 hours out of the day and I'm watching that game.
Yep.
It's going to be good. Well, heck, I think that's a good way to end it.
Yeah.
I seriously do really appreciate you talking about that.
Yeah.
I know that's really personal.
No, yeah.
I would have cut you off way before that with me because I am sorry, anyone listening, you're gonna have to get to know me better because I am not Mr. Personal. You ain't gonna hear nothing from me.
Yeah.
I'm a lockbox.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate you talking about it.
Yeah, you're welcome. It doesn't bother me too bad.
Yeah. And dude, and like you said, it was a really, really good elk hunt. And dude, I'm really happy that we got to go.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm excited for Montana.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And again, thanks again. A little shout out. If you've made it this far through the podcast, I don't even know if you're going to listen to this, but if you do, thank you again.
Yes. Thank you, Randy.
He did a lot.
Did a lot for us. It was an incredible time.
Yep. Him and his wife, Marcia.
Yeah. Amazing people.
Hauling the camper up there.
Yep.
I don't even want to know how much money spent in food and gas and all the accommodations and getting everything ready and setting tree stands.
Yeah.
And getting a side-by-side up there. There's just a lot of work.
Yeah. Yep.
A lot of investment, and I appreciate everything that he did to do that.
Yes.
That's pretty killer.
Yeah.
So, all right. Another podcast in the book. I'm Cole Tanner.
I'm Nick Simon.
Thanks for listening. See you next time. Next time, Montana.
Yes.
Better get an elk bugle. You know which button is the elk bugle? Let's get an elk bugle. Can't hear it.
I know why.
Have the volume up. Let's try it one more time. There you go. Oh, that's going to be really loud. That's a challenge bugle right there. That's a challenge. Hear that fast chuckle at the end?
Yep.
Challenge bugle.
All right.
Better do it one more time. Meow, 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 meow. It's good.
Yep.
It's a good sound.
Yep.
Thanks for listening. Have a good day.
See you next week.